All right, welcome folks. It's the first time I've done a video for this particular class. Today we're going to look at a few different things, specifically around arguments to functions. So just going to be a quick lesson on that before I give you a task to work on. So I'm just going to grab an idle window here. Right, so here we are in idle, and we're going to look at the ability to have a default argument for a function in Python. So what I mean by that is as follows. So if we took just a really basic function, so define a function called who am I, or how about who are you? Who are you? And I'm going to stipulate that I want a name and I want an age. And then with that, all I'm going to do is I'm going to print your name is, and then concatenate the name, concatenate that, and your age is, then concatenate on age. And then if we run that, so I could say, who are you? And I'm going to stipulate that my name is Andrew. My age is 45. So I run that. So just to save this, so run module, and it's going to tell me to save it. I know that. So this is a quick lesson. So when I run it, what did I get? So we got, of course, that this needs to be a string, and there's a reason that I didn't actually do that, and we're going to see why in a second. So I'm going to say string, turn that into a string. This is one of the ways that we could do this. So if I run this now, what we're going to get is that's that. Here's another way that I could have done that. Instead of concatenating this all as a big string, which is absolutely an appropriate way to do it, I could also have done it by just putting in commas, and then if I remove these spaces, so what the commas are going to do is it's going to make this into a list. And so I want to let's just see what's going on here. So if I did this, and I can actually now remove the wrapper to make that into a string, because the fact that it's an integer doesn't make any difference, or it shouldn't make any difference. So let's see if this runs as I would hope it would. And so what's kind of cool there is that it looks the exact same, right? So it's the exact same statement either way, but it was much more tolerant because now I have this as a list, and so it's printing an item, an item, an item, and an item, and so it just prints them, and you can't tell that there's a difference. So either way is going to be good to go. So that's all good. So this is standard. This is how we know how to do things. But imagine that people were reluctant to pass in an age, or just as an example. So if I tried to run this without an age here, right? So if I just did that, what's going to happen is I'm going to get an error because I don't have the requisite number of arguments, right? So it's missing one required positional argument, which is age. So what we can do is we can add defaults. And so the way the default will work is I can stipulate right in the definition of the function. So who are you, name, and I'm going to say if you don't provide it, your name is going to just be unknown. And if your age isn't provided, I'm going to just simply call you a geezer. So now, if I do this, so if I just simply ran it with no arguments, let's see what's going to happen. So if I ran it with no arguments at all, what will happen is your name is unknown and your age is geezer. Okay, so now imagine that I was willing to provide my name, and we say run that. It overrides, it says, oh hey, that first argument, I'm not going to use the default. My default is going to be not used anymore. It's going to be Andrew. So if I don't provide it, this is what's going to happen. And if I do provide it, we're going to ignore the default argument. It's simply going to use what the argument that is stipulated. Now, if I don't want to give a name and I just wanted to provide an age, so maybe it's clever enough that if I just put in an integer, so if I put in, my age is 45 and I didn't actually give a name, so what do you predict is going to happen? Take a stab. Let's see if this matches what you thought was going to happen. So now it just said, oh, your name is 45 and your age is Geezer. So it's not clever enough to realize, oh, this is not a standard name. It's just treated this as a name and it's just stuck it in there. And the reason that we didn't get an error, right? I didn't have to wrap it to a string because of the way I've constructed this print statement. This print statement doesn't need it to be a name or a string because I've printed it as here's an integer object here, which is separate from this string object. So that's not what I wanted. So what Python provides us is we're able to call arguments by keyword. And so if I didn't want to provide name, but I did want to provide age, what I could do is I could say, who are you? Age equals 45. And now it doesn't just go by default position. It's going to kind of use a dictionary and say, oh, this age, this is what this argument is. So when I run it now, what we're going to get is, so your name is unknown and your age is 45. So I can actually reference arguments. I could even do them right entirely out of order. I could say, and name equals Bob. And so the arguments aren't in the right order at all. And now when I run it, it should still work okay. So your name is Bob and your age is 45. So what that allows us to do is first off, the defaulting allows us so that if not, we're not going to have to always provide every detail every time, and we know what some defaults are going to be. We can provide these defaults, and it will use that, but we can override it by providing subsequent arguments. And normally we would do it in the right order so that we don't have to have this extra code. But if you wanted to do them out of order or you weren't entirely sure what the order was, although there should never really be a case like that, what we can do is we can call them by what their keyword for the argument is, which is pretty neat. Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to show was the defaulting and the calling by keyword. And then the second thing that I want to talk about is imagine that you don't necessarily know how many arguments you want to pass in. So imagine you were asking someone for a list of all of their pets. And so imagine that we're going to do that. So imagine I'm going to redefine this. I'm going to say define my pets. And I don't know how many pets someone is going to give me. So Python offers us a kind of an unlimited number of arguments by saying we can use asterisk and we can say pet list. And so what this says is, hey, there is going to be a bunch of potential arguments. I don't know how many there are. So what we're going to do here is they can be passed in as a list. So pet list, and just simply, I could have called it anything. It doesn't have to have the word keyword list in it. It could be, my pet list, or it could be, all of my pets or whatever. It's just a variable name. Is going to be a list. And so I could say for, and then whatever, individual pet in pet list. What we're going to do is we're going to print the name of my, brackets here, the name of my pet is, and I'm going to add on to that individual pet. Okay, and so that's all I'm going to do in that function. And so when I go to call this, I could say my pets, and I could say Diesel. So maybe I've only got one pet. And if I run that, save it. Oh, I mismatched my quotes. Hopefully you guys spotted that because I missed it. I'm sure you probably noticed it just from color. I don't watch color very well. All right, so let's try that again. So there it says the name of my pet is Diesel. Well, that doesn't seem very fancy at all, but imagine, well, I don't have to imagine, I've got two pets. So I've got Diesel and I've got Sammy. And so I haven't changed anything about my function definition, but I've got two of them now. So we can now run that. And look at that. So what it's doing is it's peeling through this list one at a time, and I didn't have to stipulate that I was going to get multiple arguments. And so I could add, Oscar, Moxie, and Jerkface. Jake, how you doing? There we go. So we're going to run that. And look what we get. So it cycles through all of those, which is pretty neat. So there you go. So 3 things we've just done really quickly there. We've looked at default arguments, we've looked at arguments by keyword, and we've looked at sort of, some people call it an infinite argument list, or I would just say an unlimited argument list. There you go. So a few more concepts for our tickle trunk of tools in Python.